Morning, everyone. Um, Thank you for joining this month. We're experiencing a little fiber optic cable issue going on this morning, so we're going to ask for a whole lot of grace and forgiveness up front. We may have a few folks that are having connectivity issue, and we're kind of playing it by ear at this moment. So we're gonna run forward as best with we can with what we have to work with this morning. So I'm not sure who's partnered up in terms of being able to get on the call. I do see that Angie is on the call this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to pass this off to Angie, and we'll get started and take advantage of the fact that we all seem to be on here at the moment.
Thank you so much, Heike. Yeah, it's been a long week, and I think we're ending it off pretty nicely here with the internet issues, but we'll do the best we can. So hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I'm going to jump on here and just talk a little bit about budget. It has been a busy week with Senate markup, and I'm going to walk through things at a high level with some of the funding, the language, and then our next steps. Really, we're still trying to work with Senate on the actual details of the markup, but so far, this is what we've got. I think Jess has talked a little bit to everyone about the House putting in creating a new Medicaid fund, which kind of seemed a little duplicative of the Medicaid fund that we already had. So there was a little bit of confusion about that. The House did not go with that additional Medicaid fund. So much of what happened during markup was just kind of putting things back to GovRec with that funding. So that's one of the reasons why it might look a little confusing. So, but overall, rate standardization, the GR pickup at the 264 million, keeping the rates at where they are today. That's what the Senate went with. The utilization increase that we had put in, or that the GovRec had included, the House had proposed to cut that by 25%. The Senate went back with the GovRec, so not decreasing that. There was additional funding, GR funding of $850,000 for the Autism Centers of Excellence. So we're still learning more details about that. That would be ongoing funding. And then I think probably the most exciting for our providers was that the Senate did put in a provider rate increase to account for the $17 an hour for DSP wages. That was an infusion of $462 million total into the system. So we were excited to see that included. There is funding for an autism center in Rolla, $500,000 in general revenue. Some additional funding. It looks to be budget stabilization funding, still making sure we understand all of that, but $10 million for autism research, and then $5 million in St. Louis County Autism Center. The Senate added an additional $250,000 to the tuberous sclerosis for a total of $500,000. And then they added language, or they reinstated the language back to what is in the current House bill. The House had removed the location language, so Senate put that back. So overall, a good week for the division. We anticipate the Senate taking this to the floor next week, and then conference on their positions and talking with House and everyone on the first week of May. So taking it to the floor, to the Senate floor next week, and then conference the first week of May. Again, we are overall feeling good about what happened this week with DMH and the funding increases, the most significant being the 462 million in rate increases for providers. And we're anxious to see where that all lands in the coming weeks. That is really what I have today. And I apologize, I'm not able to see any chats with the way we're set up here. So we will continue to answer questions and keep everyone posted on how the process is flowing with budget. So thank you for standing with us though. With that,
Angie,
yeah.
Angie, I can give you one question that came in.
Okay.
It says, is there information on if the $17 increase funding of $462 million will come from general revenue or one-time funding?
Good point. So far, what Senate did was they put everything back to our general revenue funding. So not using the enhanced FMAP, the HCBS enhanced FMAP. So that would be ongoing. Now, again, House did put some of that funding, or they put some of our rate standardization, that keeping the rates at where they are today with some HCBS enhanced FMAP funding. So that will go to conference in the next 2 weeks. But Senate put in everything general revenue ongoing. That's a very good question.
Oh, they just keep coming in. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're okay.
The question is, has there been any movement on a TCM rate increase? And then tied into that, is it correct that a TCM rate increase was not brought into budget?
Yes, that is correct. There was not a rate increase at the TCMs. It is $17 an hour DSP wage is what they brought in, and TCMs are a little higher than that. So that was not included from the Senate.
And that is all that I see.
All right.
Oh, wait, I spoke too soon.
Okay.
There was a reference to an overnight differential rate for DSPs in the March legislative report. What is this?
Oh, yeah, and you can check this out in the rate study. We have a couple of PowerPoints out on the website. There was one in PowerPoint in August we did with stakeholders, and as well as in November. You can see in there that a rate differential is included in the rates of like $1.85 for the various shifts. So that is probably what they're referencing.
So I'm hesitant to speak too soon, but there isn't anything dropping in. So if that is all with that, then we can pass on to Emily.
Yep. Thank you all very much. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Angie. Hi, it's Emily Lubring, and I'm the Director of the Federal Programs Unit. And I'm going to give a couple updates today for our COVID PHE, our MOKIDS and partnership for waiver renewals, and also value-based payments. Just a reminder, we did send out a blast about the COVID PHE ending May 11th of this year. Providers should take this time to resume their pre-COVID operations if utilizing the COVID flexibilities. Your 1135 flexibilities, think of things that are in state plan, will end upon the expiration of the PHE. And the Appendix K flexibilities, which are within our waivers, they end 6 months after the end of the PHE in November. So that would be, November 11th, those Appendix K flexibilities end. There was more information, or there is the COVID flexibility chart on our webpage that you can reference to identify if a flexibility is 1135 or if it's in an Appendix K flexibility. For our Partnership for Hope and our MOKIDS waiver renewals, and then also we have the comprehensive NCSW amendments, community support waiver amendments to align with the renewals. Those renewals have been submitted to CMS, and CMS is reviewing those renewals with expected approval by July 1st of 2023. For our value-based payments, we are starting to make payments for the incentives. We have 9 incentives approved that range from employment reporting, tiered support, implementation, completion of the NCI staff survey, or it's now called the workforce survey. Also an incentive for EVV, and the HRST, completion of the HRST, and remote supports. So we have those 9 incentives. We are starting to make payments for our first performance period, which was from July 1st, 2023 through December 31st of 2022. I'm sorry, I think I said July 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. We're making those payments, and also we are working towards, the providers are currently putting in data for those incentives for January 1st through March 30th. And just another reminder on the value-based payments, that agencies that are participating in the NCI staff survey, the NCI State of the Workforce Survey, VBP incentive for the calendar year 2022, that closes on April 30th, 2023. So you have about a week to continue or to complete that survey for the incentive payment. The survey must be completed in the State of the Workforce Survey System, and the incentive request must be submitted in REDCap to be eligible for the incentive payment. It only takes a couple minutes to complete the incentive request in REDCap. And although NCI does allow organizations to complete the survey until June 30th of 2023. So if you're not completing it by April 30th, you still have till June 30th to complete the survey, but completions occurring after April 30th will not be eligible for the VBP incentive. And if you have questions about VBP incentives, please visit our webpage for more information. Also, you can visit the VBP incentive chart for information on each incentive. And then let me see what I have. Those all the updates I have for today for federal programs. And we'll look at some of the questions that we have for me. Okay, so I have and I confirm that the payment for the HRSA completion extends until June 30th of 2023. Currently, yes, that is correct. Right now, we have it approved in our waivers for the RN rater to complete those HRSA until June 30th of 2023 for incentive payments. And the SPA, or the state plan amendment for TCM's incentive for completion of the HRSA, that is currently under review by CMS. And once that is approved, we can also make those payments until June 30th of 2023. For any HRSA completed until June 30th of 2023 would be eligible for an incentive payment. So full implementation of the HRSA implementation of the HRSA does begin on May 1st of 2023. There was a question about that. And then the next question about VBP is, do providers get notified of value-based payment amounts when, and then kind of some details around that. Yes, providers will get notified when you'll get notified if you put information into REDCap for an incentive. You'll be notified that the incentive was met or not met, and then the amounts that you will be paid. There is, within REDCap, there is a section for the provider to enter their data. There's also a section for the reviewer to review the data and determine if the information meets the incentive. And then there's also a third section that gives information about the payment and when that payment will occur. We just did our first round of payments. So that information, I believe it goes in once the payments actually are made. So you'd be able to see that in there at that point. So I think we've made some payments for the HRSA and can't speak. I think the HRSA and maybe some employment payments are in the works to be paid. They're being sent over to MoHealthNet to be sent out for payments. So when I say we've made some payments, I guess I should say from DMH's side, we have put the information in to make the payments, and then MoHealthNet has a schedule that those payments go out, and the actual payments will go out in May, beginning of May. Then we have a question of, will the payments for VBP be made separately or included in our regular monthly payments. I'm not 100% sure how those will show up on remittance advice at this very moment. I know that once we have this, the VBP payments in part of the automated process with MMIS, you will see that the VBP payment has a reason code that is attached to that payment. So you'll actually be able to identify, even between the 9 incentives, which incentive that payment is for. We're doing it right now, kind of what I would call a manual process. And I'm not 100% sure how those will show up on your remittance advice.
Hey,
That
Emily.
is a good question, though. Yeah.
This is Angie. On that one, we are working on getting information out to providers that will have them, because it's not going to, we're still working on the system work. It's not going to be pulling over into the Seymour remittance advice. So we are working on a standard kind of template that we're going to be sending to providers to be able to let them know the dollar amount for each one. So you'll notice that your Seymour remittance advice is going to be a different amount than what's actually deposited into your account. So we're going to try to reconcile that for everyone until the system work is in place.
Thanks, Angie.
Uh-huh.
And then the next question is, how will we get notified that the VBP, the value-based payment for Hearst by TCM is approved? In REDCap, it will have I kind of mentioned that there are 3 sections in REDCap: the section where the agency puts their information in, the section that identifies that the DMH or the review is complete, and if it met the incentive. And then there's also that 3rd section about the amount and when the payment is going out. So within REDCap, there is a section there that will indicate that you've met the requirements for the incentive. Okay, the next question is, when will DMH reviews of the Hearst implementation start? Oh, okay, I think I understand. So when will reviews of information entered into REDCap, when will we start those reviews? If you have entered information into the system for the time period, okay, so I guess we have 2 groups. If you're a waiver provider, those providers were entering data in starting in January. We have reviewed that information for the performance period from July 1st through December 31st. That information has already been reviewed, and working on payments for those. If you're a TCM provider, TCM is just more recently were able to ask for a request for access to REDCap. Those incentives, we have not started those reviews yet. I believe, I can't really, I don't think I can give a real good date on when those will be. Right now we're in the middle of doing the most recent ones that I should say the oldest that we had for the first time period from January or July 1st through December 30th. I'm not 100% sure on when that newer group will start being reviewed. Because we do have a time frame for those to be entered, April 1st through May 15th. So reviews will not start until at least after May 15th. If you have questions about entering data for February and March 2023, there's a question in here about the REDCap being locked for those time periods. If those are locked and you want to, if you're wanting to put information in there, it may depend on if that time period for entering data has already passed, or it could be something that if you reach out to us, we'll look into that. So if you'll send your email to the VBP mailbox, we'll look into that question. Let me get you that email. I'll get you that email address here in the chat. The next question is, how does a provider obtain a report of where their DSPs are at on the Relias DSP training program?
Emily, I can jump in on this one.
Thanks.
So if you have DSPs taking that training, that's part of that training plan in the content portal, that's that public facing portal, it is their responsibility to provide you with their documentation of the courses that they've completed. If you have your own Relias subportal, you can set up reports to pull that information. Either way, we can connect with you to help make that as smooth as possible and determine how some reports can be set up or what we can do to support you in getting that information from the content portal. So I'm going to include my email address in the chat box so you can email me directly, and then we'll work on helping you get that information to make that reporting easier for you.
Saika. Okay, so there's another question in here about, we have entered our data into REDCap and we received a message back saying that we did not have a valid contract. And then I did send the contract in, but I haven't heard back. What should I do? Can I speak to this? Yeah, so with the incentives, there was a VBP contract amendment sent out to have providers sign and return to the procurement unit. And then one of our steps in our review process is to make sure that that contract has been signed before we can go further with our review of the data that's been entered into REDCap for the incentive. And we've had some providers, agencies that have entered their data, and we are showing that their contract is not signed. However, there is a little bit of a lag, or sometimes we get our information from procurement. They're working hard to get all of their information updated as those contracts are coming back in, because there's a lot of them coming back in. And sometimes if you have signed yours already and we're telling you, hey, we don't have it on record, just let us know. And it sounds like you have let us know. So we're probably checking on that with procurement to just double check that, yep, procurement does have your signed contract. And then we'll follow up with you. And once we have that verification that it is signed, then we'll continue with our review of the data that was entered within the time frame that it needs to be entered. So it's possible that we're just working on getting that information from procurement unit. There is a little bit of lag, us getting our list of approved, and then we're doing reviews. And by the time we're doing our reviews, it might be a little outdated. So we do have that some overlap there that does occur, but we'll get that figured out. If you're still not getting an answer, just email us again. I'm sorry if we might have missed it, but we're checking with the procurement to make sure that it's the contract is there. And because we've had several people email us and say, here it is, it's signed. So. That's all I see for right now. I'm gonna go ahead and then pass it off to Leslie DeGroat to give her updates.
Thank you, Emily. Good morning. Happy Friday to everyone. I'm going to share my screen here in a minute. Give me just a second. I thought it would be a good idea to talk a little bit about oral health. We have so much going on, and it's just kind of a little reminder and some resources for you all out there. And we'll be dropping some links into the chat also to those resources. Just, considering that some people sometimes might need some extra help with their oral hygiene. It's often not prioritized. So we frequently see people who are in an emergency situation with their dental health. They may have a tooth abscess or infections or other issues. And I mean, it's just really important to try your best to try to brush your teeth every day. If you support people to brush their teeth, it's really important to not miss that. Just to prevent those emergency type situations and just to really help a person's overall health. But I won't dive into that too much because we do have on the screen here, this is our education, the division's education page, and we will drop this link in chat. We made some videos a year or so ago with help with a funding from the Dental Trade Alliance Foundation grant. We received a grant for that. And our goal was to just help get information out there to help support people to be able to know how important oral hygiene and health is for your overall health, as well as how do you help people brush their teeth? I mean, that's not something you just wake up and know how to do. Sure, you're for yourself maybe, but for other people, it's a little challenging. So the first video here is titled Oral Health as it Relates to General Health for People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. And that just kind of reviews how important it is, to have good oral health. You probably heard this, but sometimes if you have problems with your oral health, it can affect different parts of your body. So, that kind of goes into that a little bit. And these videos are just real brief. I think about 3 minutes a piece, if that, just, acknowledging the fact that we're a busy society and, you don't want something lengthy and drawn out, but just a quick, oh yeah, here we go. This second video is special circumstances with oral hygiene for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And it talks about providing oral hygiene. Let's say someone can't take anything in by mouth. Maybe they have a G-tube. Oral hygiene is still important. So it talks about that. It just talks about maybe if someone doesn't really like having their teeth brushed or having oral care, it kind of talks about tips on how to help, deal with that. And then that third video is how to assist a person with intellectual developmental disabilities with oral hygiene. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it kind of shows our dental hygienist and actually assisting someone. So that way it can kind of give your direct support professionals or whomever is helping support a person, kind of give those tidbits of, oh, hey, I could do it like this and support that person, So hopefully you'll be able to check that out and find it useful, and feel free to share it. And there's also another link. I don't know. Oh, yeah, good. I can click on it. When you share your screen, you have a thing that appears at the top and it kind of blocks some of the things. But this is a real good resource as well. It's from the National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research, and they have a special page on developmental disabilities and oral health. And it just kind of gives just tips and things of that nature on oral health and hygiene and different things that may occur, with people in regard to their oral health. So it kind of has tips and things of that nature. And we're going to be updating our Observe, Decide, Act documents to include maybe dietary tips and just some other tips that we've been able to gather from dentists and people in the profession to kind of share and help out with that to help decrease decay. So anyway, I will move on to my next topic. And it is, of course, the health risk screening tool. I'm going to give you an update on that. I will be hosting a webinar next Thursday, April 27th at 10 a.m. And that webinar will discuss transitioning from HRST implementation phase 1 to implementation phase 2. And that phase 2 does begin on May 1st. So we'll talk all about, give you, answer some frequently asked questions that we've had coming up and just kind of talk you through it, hopefully ease some anxieties. So please be on the lookout for that email blast. It'll have the registration link on it if you're interested in participating. And please join me. We're dropping the links to the Hearst Division webpage in the chat, and also email for support, any support you're needing with Hearst, any questions you have, onboarding to start doing your screening and training and all that good stuff. Please don't hesitate to reach out. It's MODD, all capitals, MODDHRSTP for project, and that's all in capitals. So MODD Hearst project at dmh.mo.gov. And like I said, just reach out anytime. And I would click on the webpage, but that thingy's blocking it. So I do need to hop off this call and actually join another call in regard to Hearst. But I mean, please don't ever hesitate to reach out. We'd be glad to help you in any way we can. And now I will hand it off to Wendy.
Good morning, everybody. I just have a quick update on the assessment, using the MOS assessment. I know that it's been a rough and rocky start with some glitches with Calendly and just a bunch of assessments coming due all at the same time. So I wanted to give you an update. We are trying to work through some of the glitches that we're experiencing with Calendly and finding solutions there. So bear with us. We have added administrative support, and we'll be adding a dedicated phone line for just Calendly questions and follow-up. I don't believe that is up and going yet, but look to May. Perhaps when that is up and running, we will be sending out information and email blast. And we have also had some retirements and people taking other positions within the division and moving on within our assessment team. So we've had to backfill some positions and do some training, which has created a challenge also to keep up with those caseloads. And so I think we've got those positions filled now. We need to get those staff up and trained. We have moved one additional FTE over to help with the workload in the assessment team, and we have added 2 supervisors. So there's 4 supervisors total for a team of 17 people. Trying to think if there is another thing there with, oh, I just wanted to remind you, if you're emailing in, having trouble with getting something scheduled with Calendly and maybe you didn't get a response back the same day, it may take 24 hours or a couple days for you to get a response back. People are just absolutely inundated with the emails. And so sometimes people are sending then repeat emails when they haven't heard something timely. Totally understand why you would want to do that, but if you could hold off and give them 24, 48 hours initially while we're working through this to get back to you, that would help with our email traffic. Instead of having, multiple emails about the same assessment for the same person, that would be really helpful. But I totally understand your stress and anxiety in trying to get those assessments through, and I can assure you the team is working above and beyond to try to get all caught up. I know they had over 2,500. We've had over 2,500 assessments that were done just since the turnover in the last 2 months or 3 months, which is extraordinary number of assessments given the number of staff and some open positions there. So yeah, I'm seeing in the chat there that people are waiting a week or more. Definitely. I think the dedicated line will help in those cases where we're going to have some admin staff that will be able to help get scheduling done. We'll be able to eliminate some of the duplicate scheduling. We still have some people that might have someone scheduled in 2 or 3 slots. So, that's kind of been a glitch and a problem. So our administrative support staff will help us to be able to clean up that Calendly scheduling list and be able to be responsive to you, answering the phone calls and helping to get things scheduled. So, Wanda, I saw that you were on. Do you have a go live date for the phone line? Oh, she's not a panelist. So she can't. Phone line is 5-1. So help is on the way there. And that is about all I have in terms of updates. If there's any questions, we'll give you a minute. Thank you, Wanda, for responding to the chat questions. If there's any, go
Yeah,
ahead.
this is Emily. I had a question that was sent to me and privately, and I wanted to mention it out loud. There was a question if self-directed services are eligible for the value-based payments. Currently, incentives are not applicable to self-directed services at this time. I'll also put that in the chat as well.
Very good. And I'm going to read a response that Wanda put in the chat in answer to a question. If there's no availability on Calendly, email the Moss email box with all of the same information you would put on Calendly. The amount of requests for critical responses was not predicted. The email address for Moss is dmh.dd.maas@dmh.mo.gov. Yeah, it just, it was a much bigger response than what we were anticipating. So
Wendy, we've made Wanda a panelist, so if there's anything else that comes in, she can jump in and assist.
Wonderful.
I just wanted to add to Wendy, thank you for that great update. Your memory is stellar. Just another addition of some of the enhancements. One of the enhancements that we're trying to make is we're going to attempt to build out the request for critical situations or need to be rescheduled, or I can't find a slot on Calendly in RedCap, so that we can gather concise, unduplicated information and be able to track and respond through that more systematically than wading through the 20 different types of encryption systems that we have. So we're just looking for any way we can to make things more efficient and easier for everyone involved. So stay tuned. Lots of amazing things are happening.
Thank you, Wanda. Appreciate that. So I don't see any other questions that have dropped in to the box. And with that, I think I am at the end of the list. Oh, there's a new one. Also, if a new SC gets a Calendly training, have not heard back from Moss email to get Calendly link. Is there another contact to use? Wanda, I'll let you respond to that.
The only contact is the Moss box. So again, Wendy had mentioned that we're getting the same person emailing us 10, 15 times about the same scenario. When that happens, it gets very confusing because then you're opening 15 different emails to try to find out if they're all for the same person or for different people. So it is simply the sheer mass of emails we're receiving. We are working on a response system. And again, as Wendy said, we have clerical support starting 5-1 that can help us with a lot of the questions, because many of the questions are very similar and repetitive, and we can develop canned statements for those to help people. And she is also going to be able to help us schedule those emergency requests instead of you all trying to track down a supervisor to do it who's in assessments themselves. So working on a lot of enhancements, but the Moss box is the only recourse. If you email individuals who are facilitating the Moss or their supervisors, you're missing the group of people who have access to the Moss box that might get to you faster than the one person you email.
Okay, we got lots of questions this morning. I know we're a little bit over our time. Cara, I'm gonna ask that you email Leslie DeGroat with your 8 people that are missing on the Hearst. And if you don't have her email, you can email me and I will get it over to her. But she'll be able to follow up on your Hearst questions with your 8 individuals. And then there was a question if anybody wants to stick around and get a really quick update on the Columbus organization, if Wanda can stay on for a couple minutes and give that update. We're happy to do that, but we know that we're over time. So if you need to jump off, that's fine too.
I sure can. So the Columbus group is in the field this week doing pilot testing with our state operated programs. I talked with them yesterday to kind of get a debrief on some of their initial observations. It's going really well. And then I believe next week they're going to be at the 4 providers, community waiver providers who have volunteered to participate in the review. We're refining the tool. That's part of what the pilot's purpose is to find out if we've duplicated things or if we've not interpreted them correctly. I have their draft tool. It's really phenomenal. It shows how well they grasp the delivery of our services and the expectations and how much information we have out there about the expectation around services and delivery. So really excited. I can't really post a revision to the directive until we have the tool. So that will be coming soon. We do plan on going live in May with other service providers. And they are also already implementing and scheduling with the TCM entities for the annual review with them. So, so far it's been really, really great. They've added a few additional reviewers as they are interested in onboarding people who live in Missouri and as permanent members of the Columbus group. And in fact, we have a couple of state retirees who went to work for Columbus. And so that's really great. There'll be some familiarity and continuity of knowledge. We're still working on the due process and mortality review systems. We're just in the navigation of getting all the information management systems to link up and then the processing that needs to change for those people to take over. But Columbus is ready and waiting and just has the manpower waiting for us to say yes. And here you go. So just figuring out those last final components for those 2 deliverables. And I think that's all I have got. The tool will be available. Okay, let me go back through questions. I see. Do we have a date for the, so the Columbus group webinar and online meet and greet has already been offered and it should be online, was recorded and should be posted now. In addition to that online, we did go to every single regional office, every single major satellite office, I should say, at the last week of March, first week of April, and then we've already done the online meet and greet. So if you missed that, the recording should already be available out there. The tool will be available as soon as we get through the pilot. Additionally, if you receive a request for a schedule or they reach out to you asking for a scheduled dates, you'll also receive the tool before your review. And then, so when will providers who are due for review in May be informed? They're supposed to inform you 30 days before. However, we're in pilot right now. So when you're piloting things, there's always flexibility. And if they aren't able to ask you in 30 days advance, well, maybe that works for you and maybe it doesn't. So if it doesn't work for you, then we'll move it into June. So never saw anything. Can a blast did go out, Kara? I'll write your name down and I will email you the link unless somebody else can find it for me before we hang up.
And Wanda, you don't need to rush.
Okay.
Heike reminded me that it goes till 11:30, so my bad.
Oh, there we go. So all of the reviewers are currently on hand in the field right now for the pilot. So if you're having difficulty getting responses, that is probably the reason why. Also, Columbus is going to be acclimating to our culture. Columbus operates in multiple states, and they are continually impressed with the amount of stakeholder input that that we obtain, that we ask for, that we facilitate. They're also continually impressed with our culture of taking questions and fielding those and providing authorities with every question. That's not something they're accustomed to doing in other states. So this is a new experience for them. So there will be adjustment for them as they learn our culture. We're trying to do our best to educate them, but sometimes, you just don't understand it until you experience it. So it's going to be a learning curve for everybody. But I talked with Dan Howell yesterday after he had been to 2 of our SOPs. And it's just amazing some of the things from their decades of experience working in our field. It is just amazing, the observation, the recommendations that they have, the things that I'm like, oh, we didn't think about that, some of the things that one of the things obviously they've noticed, and if you have this, it might be helpful for you to know. They're very heavily assessing for the home and community-based service rule. And kind of one of those slices to that rule is people having access to their environment, their belongings, their money. And they were at a provider where people had to go to a different location to check out their personal funds. So that's a real interesting process and not necessarily really, HCBS compliant. So we're going to learn a whole lot about different vantages, different viewpoints and thoughts. So Columbus has usernames and passwords, but they've all been in the field on their pilot, and so they haven't yet received those usernames and passwords and being able to log into Seymour and fish around in there. So until they become really experienced in Seymour, PR will be helping them with any of the questions that they have that they don't understand how to navigate. We did do training with them. But again, when you're in the field every day, every hour, as you all are familiar with in your own world, that means you're not there to answer emails or to get access to your systems. But they do have usernames and passwords. We provided it to their administration. They simply have not been in seat to be able to get out and explore Seymour. Thank you, Kat, for posting the link to the training. April 12th is the date it was. I don't see any more questions. I'm sure somebody's going to think of some, but if you didn't have a chance to participate in the virtual meet and greet or the in-person meet and greet, please go out and review the material. It's a lot of detail, a lot of answering the why, and a lot of answering what's the end result? What are we really after here? So I would encourage you to step out, take a little bit of time. I think the recording is a little less than an hour and a half in total because we incorporated questions and answers that we had received when we were in person into the final presentation. So it's a little bit longer than the in-person availability was. And Heike, I guess I'll turn it back to you. The chat's been silent for a few moments.
Well, you say that, and
Did you get some?
No, I haven't. I was gonna say it can get wild really quick.
It can, whirlwind.
That's right. Wanda, thanks so much for jumping on and fielding those questions. That's much appreciated. And I am with you that the chat is sitting quiet. So we will go ahead and wrap up for today. Thank you everyone for joining us. There are several links there in the chat box today, so feel free to grab those. We'll leave the call open for just a couple minutes if you need to scroll back through and grab anything. And with that, thank you very much and have a wonderful weekend.